What's up, guys? This is Kyle with Never Hedge, and we have another good PFL card coming at you this week. The playoffs continue, and this week we have the women's lightweight fights and the heavyweights. Lots of good spots here. I really enjoyed breaking down these fights. And we'll just jump right into it. First fight, we got Christian Losen, plus 105 versus Jonas Flock. I found him at minus 135. So Losen, he owns his own gym. It's called Dark Wolf MMA. He's a high school wrestling coach and is a black belt under Cesar Gracie. This is going to be his first PFL fight. He won his last fight by decision. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Most of his wins come by sub. He's tall for the division. He's 6'2". He lost on Dana White Contender Series. He looked pretty good early. He likes to throw the high kick, use his range. He's long, lanky. But being that black belt, he doesn't mind fighting off his back. I'd like to see him improve there. I'd like to see him scramble a bit more because I think that cost him that chance at the Dana White Contender Series. And then Jonas Flock. He won his last fight against Bellator alum Morgan Sickinger. He won by KO. Just a note, Sickinger has lost his last 4 and 3 of them by KO. He's 3-2. Flock is in his last 5, with the majority of his fights coming by TKO. He's kind of a small, flabby guy, but one of those very athletic, very strong, hits hard for the division. With that said, he is naturally strong. He'll be stronger than Losen, but Losen's going to have the height and reach advantage. He shows big power takedowns, and I could see him winning the first round, controlling Losen on the ground. But the pick here is going to be Losen. I think he endures the early power of Flock. He might spend the first round on his back, but he'll be trying for submissions the whole time. He doesn't give up. He's constantly looking for submissions, but he doesn't mind off his back. So it depends how the judges view that. But I expect Flock to slow down and for Losen to have more and more success on the feet before ultimately getting the sub in this fight. Like Losen, like him as a dog at plus 105. We go to our next fight, which has another newcomer in Cynthia Veskin at minus 105 versus Amanda Levy minus 125. So Veskin is a 2-time Olympian. She wrestled like her father and brother before her since the age of 7. So she's a specialist here. She competed in the London Olympics and the Rio in 2016 as a heavyweight in freestyle wrestling for France. Freestyle wrestling is the most translatable to MMA. She has never fought professionally in MMA. So her striking is a complete question mark. We really don't know how she's going to do. But she's not facing a striker in Levy. Levy is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu ace. She's known for submitting the guys. That's like her thing. She's had 2 MMA fights, and it's really hard to find tape on her. This is a lower level fight with 2 girls with huge ceilings. But they're just so early on in their career, it's hard to find tape. In her second pro fight, she knocked down her opponent with a heavy shot. And in her Instagram and Twitter, I found that she's kind of falling in love with her striking. She knows she has some power, but her striking doesn't look all that good, I'll be honest. I would say she has the advantage over Veskin just because we don't know what Veskin has at all. She might not be able to strike literally at all. This is an interesting matchup because it's a wrestler versus jiu-jitsu girl, not guy. But I'm going to have to go with the wrestler. I always tend to favor wrestlers over jiu-jitsu practitioners just because they might not know jiu-jitsu, but they know positions. And Veskin being the Olympian, I like that. I'm not going to bet it personally. I'm going to stay away, but I got Cynthia Veskin at minus 105. Next fight, another women's lightweight fight. And we have Mariana Moraes at minus 125 versus Zamzagul Falzov-Loven. Don't know how to say that one. At minus 105. So Moraes won her last fight by split over Caitlin Young. She's 4-1 in her last 5, with her only loss coming to Kayla Harrison. There's no shame there, as we all know. She's a tough girl with surprisingly great cardio. If you look at her picture, even on here, She doesn't appear to be in the best shape, but her cardio is rock solid. She has good takedowns, loves the hip toss. She's very strong for the weight division. And if she's down, she does not give up on herself. She will fight for your money. Zamzagul, she won her last 3 fights, but hasn't fought since 2018. She's another fighter that's fought in these weird promotions that it's really hard to find tape on her. The small tape I did find, she was sloppy on the feet, a decent wrestler, and she did beat Liana Jujua back in 2016. So it's kind of irrelevant at this point. Maurice is the more active fighter. She has a better competition against her. And I see this being back and forth until Zamzagul slows down and Maurice takes over and possibly finishes this fight. I really like Maurice here. Definitely betting her. Go on to the next fight, and we got a heavyweight fight. And this fight is going to be interesting. We got Carl Sumantafa plus 145 versus Muhammad Daris at minus 175. So my first read here was Sumantafa. I liked him. I liked him because of the durability. As I did tape study, I kind of flipped here. So Carl Sumantafa is your classic Samoan fighter, similar to the Hunts and the Tuohys. He likes to stand and bang. He doesn't have the one-punch power that those guys have, but he could take a mean punch. He's 38 years old, though, and that chin may be cracking. He's lost his last 4, all by decision, but in his last fight, he did get rocked and dropped multiple times. He has some good takedowns himself, but he doesn't have good takedown defense. But the thing that scared me the most in his last fight was he did get rocked. I don't know how he didn't get finished there. And if you get hit that many times against a guy like Daris, you're going out. Daris is insanely jacked, but on the smaller side for the weight division. And he is on a losing streak of his own. He lost his last 3 fights, all by first-round TKO. He's a killer-be-killed fighter with all losses by finish and most of his wins by finish. He came very, very close to finishing Roseholt before ultimately losing that fight. If you watch interviews with Daris, he's pretty pissed about that. He thought he did enough to finish Roseholt, and he kind of emptied the gas tank there and got finished later in the first. But this is a sloppy heavyweight fight. And like I said, I leaned Sumantafa because of the durability initially, just looking at their records. But doing tape study, I think that chin's cracking. He's getting older. And I think Daris is going to put it on him here and possibly get the finish in the first round. So I like Daris. Next fight is back to the women's lightweight with Caitlin Young plus 185 versus Marina Maknatina. That's a hard one to say. So Young has been around forever. She's much better than her 500 record shows. She's one of those girls who's fought all the toughest girls, including Marina Moraes, who we talked about earlier, Lauren Murphy, Leslie Smith, Liz Carmouche, and even Gina Carano back when she was fighting. Her problem is every step up she gets, she loses it. She's primarily a striker, but she's serviceable everywhere. She's a good fighter. Marina, she's a 6-time Sambo world champ. She's 5-2 in MMA and 1-2 in her last 3. She did win her last fight, and she now trains at Sanford MMA, which is a big and good change. She was not impressive in her last win, though. Watching that fight, I understand why she wasn't re-signed by Bellator. I'm not sure the ins and outs if she just chose PFL or Bellator didn't want her. But I didn't like the way she looked in that last fight. Her takedowns weren't there. And if you're not going to be able to take down Young, you're going to get picked apart. I really like Caitlin Young here, and I could see her finishing this fight. I love Young as the dog. Next fight, we're back to heavyweight with Renan Ferreira at minus 225 versus Stuart Austin plus 175. Ferreira's on a bit of a run. He beat the shit out of Sumantafa in his last fight. I don't know how he didn't get that finish. I said that earlier, but he dropped him multiple times. Before that, he had that weird fight against Fabricio Verdum where he did tap out, But then the fight didn't get stopped, and he went on to finish that fight. And he also beat Jared Vanderaa, who we saw in the UFC, by sub. His last loss was because he got DQ'd due to illegal strikes. So he's on a bit of a tear. He's very well-rounded, has good jiu-jitsu, good striking. He's fighting Stuart Austin, who has fought most of his career at 205. He's a big guy at 6'3". Won his last 2 fights. His last fight was a decision win over Satoshi Ishii. He has been KO'd a few times, including KO'd by Johnny Walker and Dolce Longambula. Ferrara's on a tear, and I expect that tear to continue. I think Ferrara KOs Austin here with a big win, proving that he is fucking legit. Next fight, we stay in the heavyweight division in a very, very close fight in Denis Golstov, minus 177 versus Anta Deleha, plus 138. And I'm sure I just butchered that guy's name. But Golstov's a Russian heavyweight, 2-time Sambo world champ. He has tons of MMA experience and is on a 2-fight winning streak with wins over Brendan Sales by TKO and Darius also by TKO. He also has impressive wins over Jared Rosholt and Tiller. Has a great jab, loves to use the leg kick, loves to fight from the outside. He doesn't have the power of some of these heavyweights, though. He will use the clinch to use trips and throws to get his opponents to the mat. He's fighting Deleha, who's an absolutely massive man, fighting out of Croatia. He won his last fight by KO and is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, with his only loss coming by first-round KO in 46 seconds. I don't see that happening against Golstov. Deleha is an aggressive fighter with real strong shots. He's also very heavy on top. If he could get you to the ground, it might be hard against Golstov. So this is a really good scrap. And I honestly can see it going either way. I'm going to stay away betting-wise. I can see it going with Deleha winning with the strength and power, especially round 1. But I could also see Golstov picking him apart with a jab and leg kicks from the outside, maybe to get in a late takedown with Deleha slowing down towards the end. My gut says the dog wins just by watching tape study. I think he might be the better fighter here, but I'm staying away, not risking it on this one. Next fight is a fight that I love. Larissa Pacheco, minus 286 versus Taylor Guardado. Pacheco has looked truly dominant in her last 2 fights. She finished both of her opponents in the first round. She has experience against the best fighters in the world. She went 8 rounds with Kayla Harrison, went to decision twice, won 5-round fight, won 3-round fight. She beat Carol Rosa and hasn't been in the ring. She lost, but Jessica Andrade and Jermaine Durandamy. She's awesome. She has power for the division. She is good everywhere, has fought the best of the best. And she's fighting Guardado here, who doesn't have that same level of experience that Pacheco has. But she is a very well-rounded and athletic fighter. She looked good in her last 2 fights. She was a standout amateur. Years and years ago, people thought she was going to be the next big thing. She has wins over the like of Raquel Pennington, Amanda Bell, and Ashley Evans Smith. That was all as a teenager. Her only loss back then was to Ronda Rousey, who we saw the career she had. She then took 9 years off. She's come back. She looks good, but she's getting in over her head a little bit here. Pacheco is a monster, and I have no problem betting her at minus 286. I have no problem putting her in any parlays. I think she probably gets the finish here. Pacheco all day. Next fight. We got another heavyweight fight in Bruno Capoloza, minus 190 versus Jamel Jones. Jamel Jones barely made the tournament, but he's in. Bruno is on a 2-fight winning streak with 2 wins coming in the first round over Deleha and Darius. All his wins are by TKO. He formerly fought at 205 pounds, but he's very well-rounded. He picked up and slammed Darius in that fight, has heavy hands with good combos, and he likes the high kick. He's fighting Jamel Jones, who also used to fight down at 205, and he lost on the Contender Series to Mike Rodriguez via TKO. He also lost to the other UFC fighter, William Knight. Jones has been right on the cusp of getting in the UFC. He's the kind of fighter, he has the look of the fighter that they like. heavyweight. I don't know if that's a good move for him. He is on a 3-fight winning streak with all wins coming in KO in round 1. He's extremely strong. A great hammer, not the best nail. But the thing that scares me about Jones is he has tapped to strikes before against William Knight. And he's been TKO'd a few times. Against a guy like Bruno, that's going to be a problem. Bruno wins this by TKO. The fight to end in round 1 is a great prop because either guy can end this fight at any time. They're both massive, massive heavyweights. And then that brings us to our main event, Kayla Harrison. When I saw it, it's minus 1250. It's skyrocketed since then. Versus Jenna Fabian plus 700. So everyone knows Kayla Harrison, 2-time gold medal winner in judo. She's come to MMA and dominated everyone. She's 10-0, and I don't see that changing here. Fabian has won her last 3 fights, 2 of them coming by KO. She's primarily a striker, and she's extremely aggressive, and that's going to be her game plan here. She said it. She said, I think my aggression is going to be the difference here. The problem is she's fighting a fucking monster. Harrison will dominate and finish Fabian probably in the first round. I'm not going to take that. I've seen a lot of people tweeting out at me, first round, Kayla Harrison. I can see that bursting a lot of people's bets. Just better to win or leave her off the card. She is the play. All right, guys, like and subscribe. Thank you again.